Good afternoon, everyone. So thank you, Apo, for giving me the opportunity to share what we're doing for the maritime training. So, more than 30 years ago, I was once a cadet, similar to the table there. So one of my most memorable experiences is actually the firefighting training. I remember the time that I attended the training, there was a half-cut drum. They put gasoline in it, and we start fighting the fire. It is as if we experience a real fire. You feel the heat of the fire, but if you accidentally put the water on the drum, even before the start of the exercise, the fire is already out. But at that time, that was an effective training. More than 10 years ago, our company PHILCAMSAT invested in that gas-powered firefighting simulators. You'll see the amount of fire that we can create on that. And this is still considered as one of the more modern firefighting simulators, at least in the Philippines. But take note, this one will become obsolete very soon. Actually now, we're doing firefighting activities through a simulator. When we conduct the basic and advanced IGF code course, we do it on a computer because there's no commercially available LNG. And very soon, when we shift to ammonia and hydrogen fuel, the same thing will happen. So before I continue with the future of training, let me make you walk back on the 30 years of maritime training. The 1990s has been a pivotal decade for maritime training. We saw the shift towards competence-based training, and that's where the early adapters and simulator began. We have the bridge simulator, the engine simulator, and the liquid cargo. But actually in other industry, the simulator began even in the 70s and 80s. So maritime was actually already late with the simulators. Then, STCW was at first adopted in 1978, and it was implemented in 1984, and there were several revisions, and one of the main revisions is actually 1995. 1995 became the foundation of modern training because we focus on competence-based training. If you look at the 2000, 2010, and 2020, you can see the trend. For example, for training centers like us, from the simulators, we shifted to e-learning, and now we have the online learning also. Then there are, in 2010, VRs and ARs, the virtual reality and augmented reality, and now we're looking into advanced simulation using the AI. The AI will do the assessment for the officers and ratings. We went to Singapore. You can see there that they can put gadgets on your head. They can see the stress of the officers that are taking courses, and they can put a goggle on the trainees, and they can count the number of times you close your eyes, and the number of times you look into the radar, to the targets, and if the collision situation doesn't trigger stress, that means you're not attentive. So the AI is the future of maritime training also. When you look at environmental protection, in the 2000s, that's where we started to have concerns about environmental training. We talk about environmental awareness. In 2010s, we see the green shipping. Now, we see the decarbonization. So you look at, there are trends in terms of training. Then we go to the human factor. The human factor when you look at 1990s, competence-based learning is a focus on the human factor already. When you look at in the 2000, that's where we saw the importance of training because we confirmed that 80% of the accidents are actually human error. Then when we go to the 2010, we have stronger focus on human element, leadership management, and we also talk about Seafarers' mental health. On the 2020s, we have the pandemic, that will have a focus again on mental health and well-being. And now, To continue with that, we have the diversity and inclusion related training, all about developing human factor. Now, if you look at the trends of the 30 years in maritime training, the 3 decades, it is basically categorized in 3 categories: regulatory compliance, adoption of the technology of the maritime industry, talking into sustainability, safety, efficiency, and overall operational effectiveness. And both the technological adoption and regulatory compliance brought about concerns for human factor. That's why we have a lot of human factor training, from behavioral, wellness, and other things that you can see now. And for the last 30 years, the ship owners have been investing for the training of the seafarers. And when Apo mentioned that the expectation of the ship owners is we have seafarers who are actually superheroes. If you spend 30 years in investing in training, we can say that the ship owners will indeed expect higher expectation for the seafarers. But this afternoon, I just want to mention that we have here a real superhero, Apo, and SAFETY4SEA Super Friends. They give us this free dialogue which we can talk about the future of training. So let's give Apo a round of applause. And the SAFETY4SEA Super Friends. Okay. Then, if you look at this IMO 2050 strategy in reduction of greenhouse gas, this is the net zero. It's complicated to see this journey. The only way that we can adapt to this is if we have a community effort to work with that. I am part of the Maritime Just Transition Skills Council, and we're just talking about the 3 alternative fuels: methanol, ammonia, and hydrogen, and there are 800,000 seafarers to be trained by 2030 up to 2040. Not included are the batteries and the wind propulsion. So this is a task force, regulators, ship owners, union, and the private sectors. So the only way that we'll be able to cross this is to have a community effort. That's why if you look at the decarbonization shipping, we will require new skills. If you look at the upper part, skills and competence to handle complex maritime operations, that's the main concerns that we have. You look at the other skills that will be required before, these are the same skills that we will be discussing for the last 30 years. And because of the complexity in maritime, we need to have a higher skilled global maritime professional. If you look at the digital technologies, green technologies, and autonomy, that's all part of the technological adoption of the maritime industry. So from the simple operation to a more complex operation involving both ship, ashore, and onboard personnel, sea and land-based staff. So and you can see also there that there are new types of seafarers that we have. Now, the regulation is always late for the execution. Actually, I mentioned about STCW 1995, 2010 has another amendment which was implemented in 2015. The next amendment, the discussion that are ongoing with the IMO, the implementation and the adoption is 2032. The implementation is 2037. How are we going to adapt if there will be no early adopters? But for us, we have some early adaptation on some of the training. For example, together with MARINA, we sponsored the Train the Trainer for basic and advanced IGF force. We also made a detailed study on the firefighting with methanol, which we submitted to the Maritime Just Transition Skills Council. We also made a course with the wind propulsion. That's our simulator with the wind propulsion on ship. And we also developed a lot of soft skills. Similar to what we have done here, the helm course that we have about 8 or 9 years ago, we shared with MARINA, and MARINA submitted that to IMO, and it became IMO Model Course 1.40. So with that, it is our effort to actually share all of the things that I mentioned, the previous courses that I mentioned before this slide. We are preparing to submit everything to MARINA. Because everyone, we want all the training centers, all the stakeholders to be able to adapt. Because for us, safety is not an area of competition, but it is an area of collaboration. Maraming salamat.